Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to start a little short series that I wanted to do on differentiation and the nervous system. So it'll be a series of videos on the nervous system as we talk about enmeshment and differentiation and self-actualization. We cannot leave out the conversation about the nervous system because it is literally at the core of our process of differentiation, and it is literally at the core of everything that happens in enmeshed family systems. So I want to go deeper into that, so maybe offer you guys a different perspective as you go on your differentiation journey. If you can think about yourself more in terms of your own nervous system. So literally, I want you guys to do this visualization practice where you picture yourself as a walking nervous system. Imagine you didn't have all this other stuff. You didn't have skin, bones, whatever, all the different body parts, hair, all this external casing that encases our nervous system. Imagine you're just a walking nervous system. And imagine that your nervous system is quite literally an ongoing current of electrical charge. And as you interact with the world, your nervous system is getting zapped. Every interaction you have, your nervous system gets zapped with electrical current, which is we can just call it energy. And this is quite literally what's happening. There's the neurochemical and electromagnetic pulsation that happens in our nervous systems as we interact with our environment. And it is just a way that nature evolved to help us respond to the inevitable demands of life. So, let's say you're walking down the sidewalk and all of a sudden a car comes out of nowhere and honks its horn at you because it's about to hit you. Well, your nervous system goes bzzz, it gets buzzed and zapped with energy to kind of prepare you to respond to that, because maybe you need a jolt of energy to get out of the way or whatever it may be. So your nervous system is this little electrical network that's moving through the world and constantly sending out energy currents and energy signals. Now, what happens is our nervous systems quite literally develop inside of the environment of the nervous system of our mother. And then it continues after we are born and move out into the physical world with our family of origin. We grow up in that environment. It continues to develop within the context or surrounded by the nervous systems of our other family members, our family system. So if you can think about the nervous system being our nervous system being deeply intertwined with our mother's nervous system, first of all, more than any other person's nervous system. So for those of you who experience a deep sense of enmeshment with your mothers, it makes sense. You're not flawed or broken. Nature quite literally made us to be this way, to be so deeply entwined, because we come from the nervous system environment of our mother's body. So and we need that connection in early life because we're these tiny little extremely dependent and needy creatures. And we don't have complex verbal language. We don't know how to get our own needs met for survival yet. So we need to have this deep interconnectedness with our mother's nervous system so that she can feel us. She needs to be able to feel us so that she can feel our needs and she can respond to our needs. She can know, oh, my baby needs food right now. My baby needs sleep. My baby's upset. My baby's sick. She needs to be that interconnected, and we need to be that interconnected with her in order to be able to survive and get our needs met. However, what happens in enmeshed family systems, in a natural and healthy developmental trajectory of any particular human being, our nervous system begins to become more differentiated from our mother's nervous system and our family of origin's nervous system as we become more independent, as we become more capable of getting our own needs met. We begin to create this it's really the process of differentiation. We start to see that we are actually a different nervous system than our mother's nervous system, than our father's nervous system, than our brothers and sisters' nervous system. and that we can get our own needs met, and that we can have our own feelings, and we can begin to have our own mental processes, and we can begin to have our own desires and our own beliefs and our own life trajectory without being constantly influenced by our mother's nervous system, or without our mother being constantly dependent on soothing our nervous system or regulating our nervous system through her own behaviors. Now, in an enmeshed family system, this developmental process, this natural and healthy developmental separation of the recognition of our different nervous systems, it never happens. It's like an arrested development. And so we continue into our adult life being intertwined with our family system's nervous system. There's like a collective nervous system, and everybody's nervous system is intertwined with the other person's nervous system. So everybody feels everybody else's emotions, everybody feels everybody else's stress and anxiety, and normally negative emotions, right? Because as human beings, we respond to each other's negative emotions in order to help each other during times of distress. But again, as we emotionally mature and we develop and we become more capable of regulating our own stress and meeting our own needs for survival, it's natural and healthy to be able to, be more, not dissociated. It's not that we can never, feel compassion for our loved ones' distress or be there for them, or, we can, as we mature, we develop a deep sense of empathy, meaning we can feel our mother's pain if she's in pain for some reason, like maybe she's, she lost a loved one, and we can feel her grief. But that doesn't mean we get lost in it, because we've created that differentiation of like, oh, this is my nervous system and that's her nervous system. I don't have to get lost in her nervous system. I can feel what she's feeling and therefore empathize and have compassion and therefore offer some type of support as a result of that empathy. But I also know, like, this is me. I don't have to get overly engulfed in what my mother's emotional needs are, right? So if my mother is lonely because dad is never present for her as a partner, I can feel compassion for her and I can say, hey mom, I recognize that this is hard for you. But I don't feel like lost in her nervous system to the point where I feel responsible for making her nervous system regulated, for helping her regulate her nervous system, right? I recognize, no, mom, you're an independent and separate adult with your own differentiated nervous system, and you have full capacity as an adult to get that need met, right? And so this is like, it's like a weird way of starting to think about our nervous system, or starting to think about the process of differentiation and starting to think about enmeshment. But I wanted to just kind of prime you guys with that, so as we go deeper into talking about the nervous system. So really this first video is to get you guys thinking about, imagine yourself as a walking, moving nervous system through the world. Imagine your loved ones, your mom, your dad, your siblings, your partner if you're married, your own children if you have your own children, even your friends and family and the people that you work with. Imagine them all being walking nervous systems as well. And we're all kind of just like walking nervous systems, interacting with each other and buzzing each other all the time. Some of us who are less differentiated and have a harder time with, self-regulating, will have nervous systems that are basically like fried. We're constantly getting pinged and we have a really hard time, kind of moving or down regulating the energy currents in our nervous system. So we're buzzed all the time. We're like electrified all the time. And then others of us who have gone through this long, hard process of self-differentiated, or who just were lucky enough to grow up in families with high levels of self-differentiation, will have nervous systems that have sort of lower levels of intensity of that electrical current. So they might receive the same stimulus from the external world. They might have that car like come and cut them off or almost hit them. And their energy current will be expressed in just a calmer way with less intensity than maybe someone who's less differentiated. And then as you also start to think about your family as a set of nervous systems as well, imagine you sitting, like you going for Thanksgiving dinner and being at the table with all of your relatives, mom, dad, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, grandma, grandpa, husband, wife of whoever, your own children, and all of you guys are just nervous systems sitting at the table. Imagine how often you guys are pinging each other, zapping each other, right? So a highly differentiated person within the context of a table of nervous systems will not take on the electrical current of others so easily. They'll be able to remain relatively calm with low-grade intensity, low-grade electricity intensity, for example, even if their family members are kind of like zapping them a lot. A person with low levels of differentiation is going to feel constantly zapped and constantly absorbing the electricity that's sort of flying around that dinner table. So I want you to think about the next time that you are around your family system. Imagine yourself being a nervous system. Imagine your family members being a nervous system. And how is your nervous system responding to the nervous systems of those around you? Are you getting zapped constantly? And if so, we're going to talk more about the different things we can do to go along the differentiation process to begin encapsulating our own nervous system, taking responsibility for our own nervous system, and not taking on so much of that electricity. And if we do take on that electricity, how we can sort of transmute and ground that energy so that we, over time, feel like a more emotionally autonomous human being. Again, this is not about becoming totally like separate and disconnected. Quite the opposite. When we are highly differentiated, like when we have high levels of differentiation as human nervous systems, we have the capacity to be present with others and connected with others without taking on their electricity, so to speak. So we're actually connecting with them from a more grounded place versus like connecting with them through stress or high levels of intensity. It's a different thing. So we're going to talk a lot more about that. For now, I just want you to think about yourself as a walking nervous system and start to self-reflect, like, how is my nervous system responding or reacting to the environment around me? And this could be, again, with anybody, literally any human being. It could be a stranger on the street that looks at you the wrong way. It could be a dog on the street that's barking at you. It could be nature, like the cycles of nature. Maybe it's like raining and thunderstorming out today and you're taking on sort of like, the intensity of nature today. I know as women, for example, we have our monthly cycles and we're more affected by sort of the external environment and nature cycles in ways that oftentimes are out of our awareness, but you would be surprised how much this affects our nervous systems. And then just in general, like, watching the news, for example, could be a nervous system zapper, and then people at work, because we become a part of the collective nervous system of the communities that we participate in, whether they're professional communities or recreational communities. So we get zapped all the time by the nervous system of our friends, of our colleagues, of our clients, of our society and our culture, of people in the market when you go buy food on a Wednesday night, people at a concert, if you go to a concert or a bar on a Friday night, but very, very specifically the people who most zap us, because our nervous systems are literally born and formed inside of their nervous systems, is our family system. So they are going to be the ones that you're going to have the greatest level, your nervous system is going to have the greatest level of sensitivity to your family's nervous system because it's so closely intertwined with theirs. Okay, so I want you to think about yourself as the walking nervous system over the course of the next week, and then we're going to do more videos on this. And I'm curious to know what your questions are about this. Like, what comes up for you as I'm telling you this? Have you ever thought of this before? Does it make you think differently, like have a different perspective? Like, oh, I never really thought about the idea that I could be a walking nervous system. I want to know, so leave your comments and your questions down below in the video, because I'm gonna play off of whatever you guys respond here. All right? Peace and love and lots of emotional grounding and wisdom in the next week, guys.